I wonder sometimes, fully knowing that such thoughts of these border on heresy. How did the Emperor come to be? Was he always there? Or is he the product of ancient man's esoteric history? I ask this knowing I will not have my answers until I am embraced by his holy light at the end of my service. I ponder these things simply because I find curiosity to be the extremely important feature of mankind. Too little and one's mind may become stagnant and become too rigid and set in its ways to be flexible. Too much and one may convince themselves out of ignorance or arrogance to delve too deep and often find themselves in the worst of heretical thoughts and behaviors. It is a balancing act for sure, knowing when to stop and resist the innate need to learn more. But I can't help but think these things. But I have never, nor will I ever, tell anyone these thoughts. I know I am loyal. I need not prove anything to anyone, but I do not wish to give them ammunition for small, petty political gain. These thoughts often plague me right before a new campaign. As to why this in particular triggers it, I cannot say. It is a reminder of my mortality, or is it simply musings of what I shall first ask the Emperor upon meeting him in death, should this be my last campaign in his service. But the time for meditation and pondering is soon to be over. This calm before the storm only ushers in the storm to come, and it is always bloody. I now depart for my position at the head of this ship to wage war in his name and purge his enemies in glorious combat. This is Admiral Scythian Augustus, and the Emperor protects. Always. Hello, Warlords and Generals. My name is Tab, and welcome back to the continuation of covering the Imperium's history and the sub-factions within. Today we continue with the origins of the Imperium and the Emperor himself. And without further ado, let us continue this story. The Emperor story begins in the age of primitive man, before written history, before civilizations. Among early man were humans who called themselves shamans, naturally born psychers, so in tune with the universe and the warp that they mastered the art of reincarnation, being able to pass their knowledge down to their next lives. This endless cycle was to be man's inheritance, having spiritual leaders who understood the universe to lead mankind to enlightenment and ascension. But it was not to be. Some shamans noted others were not reincarnating. After some divining and investigations, it was discovered that demons and other warp entities were devouring their fellow shamans' souls in the transition from one life to the next. This was a dire scenario, and not only for the shamans, but for humanity as a whole. For it would leave them bereft of spiritual leaders and enlightened souls. So after some debate and deliberations, a plan was made. If their souls would be devoured in death separately, they would be safe together. So as one, all remaining shamans committed ritual suicide at the same time, their souls combining and gestating a new singular soul, so powerful and filled with light and dreams of humanity that the demons named it the anathema, for none could look at it iridescence directly. This was the birth of the being we would come to know as the Emperor of Mankind. Though he was born to a human mother, and he himself was indeed human, he was also something far beyond humanity. With no shamans to guide him, the Emperor had to figure out a lot for himself. Eventually, however, he would discover he was stronger, faster, smarter, and even possessed what early man would call magic. He would also eventually figure out that he was both immortal and possessed eternal youth, as well as being immune to all diseases. After a while of this process, he decided he would steer mankind from the shadows, never becoming directly involved after his few attempts to do so, as many roles: a warlord, a spiritual head, and others. eventually man would take to the stars. This was known as the Golden Age of Technology, and it was man's heyday. But much as history has taught us, specifically in the Warhammer world, it would not last. Throughout these human settlements, psychers were beginning to pop up on all these worlds that humanity had managed to colonize during this great age of technology. Untrained in the art of this power, caused demons to appear in great numbers and warp storms to rapidly appear suddenly and violently across the universe. Many worlds were cut off and lost. This began the Dark Age of Technology, or also known within the setting as Old Night. This was a time for the Emperor where he committed to research and development. This was the start of his experimentation with genetics that would lead to the creation of the Thunder Warriors and the Custodes. At the head of these two genetic armies, he would wage war against other people among Terra to gain control of it, amongst other esoteric arts and technology he would use. But that's a story for another time. For now, we will end the video here. Next, we will cover the Reunification War and the start of the Great Crusades. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like, and if you are looking for more content, subscribe. I try to upload a video once a week at the moment. Once I clear schedule and get my process down a little more, I plan to do twice a week. Thank you for enjoying my video. Hope you have a great day, and happy wargaming.